Welcome back to Piers Morgan Under Centre. Mira Zanalock with my final night sitting in for Piers before he comes back from holiday. Let's have some fun, shall we? It's already been fun. Joined in the studio now by our panel for the evening to chew over some news. Comedian and commentator Sajila Kershi, TalkTV presenter Richard Tice joins us back here, and TalkTV's international editor Isabel Oakeshott. All three of you, lovely to have you. And, you know, with no favouritism at all, but Richard coming back in after we had quite a heated conversation at the top of the show there about Brexit. Obviously, we have very different positions, but we wanted to show the viewers this, because when you and I were talking about the CPTPP, which is the Asian Trade Pact, we're actually talking to Danny Blanchflower, who's an economist. We were speaking to him in the US. Richard was sitting next to me in the studio under strict orders not to comment, to listen to Danny. And this was this was Richard's reaction as Danny was talking.
Allow goods to cross frontiers and not have to bother with ridiculous trade deals with some Southeast Asian country that will raise GDP by 0.00001 in a decade.
And that was considered to be an overestimate as well. We just had to show you that because it was quite extraordinary in the studio, Richard.
I couldn't resist it, but I kept quiet. I just had to explain in sort of graphics that he was completely wrong.
Wow.
Rosanna, I actually think you gave him a bit too easy a time, I have to say. I was listening, says you let him prattle on for absolutely ages.
What do you mean prattle on? I was telling the truth, the honest truth about the advantages of Brexit.
You let him have a party political broadcast.
I like to let people set out their stall and hear it, but I think, you know, we loaded up quite hard against you, both me and Blanchflower, sharing quite a similar view on things. Look, we're not going to continue talking about Brexit because we're just going to be accused of being Ramonas. Let's talk about President Biden, rather, who in Ireland today was having a meeting. Now, there have been all these allegations. Sajila, thanks so much for joining us this evening, that he is too biased in his Irish ancestry and his love for Ireland. Yesterday, when we were talking about this, I was thinking probably over-egged. He's a diplomat. He knows how to handle this. But let's take a listen.
You see this tie I have with a shamrock on it? This was given to me by one of these guys right here. Was a hell of a rugby player, and they beat the hell out of the black and tans. Oh, God, it was wonderful.
You can hear the audience there, not quite sure if they've realised what he said. He said black and tans. He apparently, according to the White House, meant All Blacks, the rugby team, not the police force that faced the IRA back in the early 20th century. But it is a massive gaffe, or is it not, Sajila?
This is interesting, because was it a gaffe, or did he know what he was saying? I suspect, like, the little mischievous inside of me thinking, so maybe he did it on purpose, like, because he... Firstly, how has he left the US? You know, how has that happened? Because I go away for a couple of months and I don't watch the news, and suddenly, like, Biden's well and like, really very, you know, kind of like energetic. He's out there in Ireland, really claiming his Irish roots. And I think back in 2020 they said that the Irish passport was more powerful than the US and the UK. So maybe he just wants an Irish passport. I don't know, but I just think all these little gaps. I'm not sure now. I'm not actually convinced that he does them accidentally. I think there's a little...
Isabel?
I do.
Generous there. I mean, that's a classic gaffe of somebody who has been reading his brief on the plane coming over. He's been skim reading it, or someone's been verbling it to him. He's remembered something about history and the black and tans, and he just basically drops it in by mistake. It's completely incredible.
You think it's a mistake, a slip-up, just association?
The idea that it's deliberate, that is frankly fatuous.
It's a great Freudian slip.
He is 80. There's another thing, though, which is that it transpires that his limousine in Northern Ireland, which should have had the Union Jack flag on it, along with the US flag, it didn't. It had the flag of the Republic of Ireland.
I mean, that is...
So I think that some of this stuff is very deliberate. I don't know whether the black and tans is, or whether it's just the fact that he's an 80-year-old who is clearly struggling. But it's nevertheless, it's pretty serious. And frankly, he should just do better. He's the leader of the free world.
Looking back at some of the history of Biden's comments about Ireland and England specifically as well, because he's blamed his father for giving him an English name. And, you know, does that make him anti-British? But there have been so many comments, Sajila, over the years of Biden just basically trying to renounce his English ancestry but promote his Irish.
Oh, maybe he's confused and he doesn't actually know which island, I-S-L-A-N-D, he's talking about.
I don't even know what day it is.
Yeah, but, I mean, if he's 80 years old, I think he's going to get away with it. However, actually, America needs to do better, because you know, he's 80, and I don't want to be ageist because I think you can do things at any age, and we're all getting older, so we want to keep jobs and stuff. But I just think that perhaps whoever's advising him just needs to do better. You know, the people around him, I blame them, not him so much.
Let's talk about upper age limits for power then, because there's even been debate. There was in the Sunday Times this week saying, you know, should people over a certain age stop having driving licences because there's a huge proportional risk of older people and behind the wheel and the risks that can have. But in terms of holding the office of the United States president, we've got Trump and Biden going up against each other, Biden more or less re-announcing his run. Is it OK, Isabel?
Look, I don't think there should be a cut-off point. It's all to do with how you're physically and mentally able to cope. And it's quite evident over the course of his presidency that Joe Biden is struggling. You know, there have been numerous gaffes. His delivery and speeches, which is, after all, very important if you're the president or any leading politician, is extraordinarily erratic. You know, he will waffle on, you lose, if you're the audience, you lose the thread of it. He's obviously lost the thread of it. I don't think he's all there. There's not, fortunately, too much longer to go of this presidency, but the idea of him rerunning, I think, is extraordinary. And I would be astonished if the American people voted for more of the same.
You more or less accused Richard of waffling on at the start of this show. Does that mean...
He's not 80. He's got no excuse.
She didn't mean it. Look, there shouldn't be an upper age limit, but it is extraordinary that in the United States you've got the leading Republican contender is 78. Joe Biden, the president, is saying he's going to run it at the age of 80. How is it that America, in the nicest possible way, can't come up with something a bit younger, a bit more dynamic, that sort of unites and inspires the nation?
That would be Barack Obama was your lot, basically. Yeah. That's it. You got a good-looking, young, you know.
But what did he achieve?
But I mean, yeah. But it's just I don't know.
What's his legacy?
Look, you know, the people vote who they vote for, so you can't, you know, it's democracy, and if you vote for old people, then they're going to get in, aren't they? So, I don't know, maybe America do better.
That was my question. Why isn't there any younger, more vibrant, inspirational leaders talking? Which Meghan Markle? Would it be Piers Morgan Uncensored without us talking about Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, or the Sussexes, rather, I should call them? OK, the latest in the coronation. We now know that Harry is coming next month for the coronation. We know that Meghan is staying behind. Originally, we heard it was because it was Archie's 4th birthday, the kid's birthday. It's on the same day, the Prince. Now we're hearing her spiritual advisor saying, well, actually, it's probably better you stay away. Isabel, your reaction says it all.
Well, my reaction is just I don't really want to listen to a spiritual advisor. I mean, that's ridiculous. I think they've actually made a graceful decision here. We don't know the extent to which they were forced into it by the palace, but I think this is absolutely the right decision. Prince Harry needs to come in and be seen to be there. I think he'll get the hell out pretty quickly. She would have been a huge distraction. Doubtless there would have been booing. It would have been very uncomfortable for the rest of the royal family. So I think it was the right decision. I don't know why you're making that funny face.
Well, because we're British. We don't boo people. But
you
equally.
Have you not seen Big Brother?
You don't, but people would have.
Who has a spiritual guru or advisor? I mean, that
Californians,
in itself,
Richard.
that in itself highlights the absurdity of the lady. I mean, it's just ridiculous.